Okay, it is 5 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Getting in the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. Today's meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Edge, by CTSB in the town of Great Barrington. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items of those reasonably anticipated by the chair may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Select board's announcements, statements. Phil? Garfield?
Nothing.
And I have town manager's report?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. We're on our strategic priorities review workshop. I hope Eric and Ben are coming. I haven't heard from them. And I'm correct, we are on housing.
Yes. So. So area focus number 3 is housing, and in your spreadsheet on page 3, is it 3 or 4? 1 in the green section. So affordable, the first item in the core priority is the affordable and workforce housing, aging in place, with several mini steps within it. Supporting the Affordable Housing Trust, exploring workforce housing, seasonal communities, and the RTE. So FinCom had made a recommendation about the Affordable Housing Trust and recommending that the select board consider attainable housing by the middle income households. And also emphasizing aging in place as a part of a strategic plan.
So what's the difference between that and the next bullet, which is explore and examine workforce housing?
Well, I might have put it in the wrong tier, but it is kind of, it goes into both.
Okay.
Yeah, affordable housing, and then also the redevelopment and development opportunities.
Okay.
The seasonal communities is moving forward. Planning board has been tasked with proposing zoning changes that'll be scheduled for the the annual town meeting next year. And then comments within the planning board joint meeting was year-round housing trust, examining that based upon the seasonal communities. If that's a different type of committee that needs to be formed versus Affordable Housing Trust Committee.
We also talked about the fact whether we could have one committee that would cover both, right?
Right, we did. Yeah, so I think that would have to be a Michael.
Okay.
Or at least I can ask other towns what they do.
Yeah.
For that.
I mean, so basically having the existing Affordable Housing Trust Board be the same as the new seasonal community.
If that's possible, yeah, for year-round housing trust.
What is the year-round housing trust? What is that referring to?
It's part of the requirements for seasonal
Okay, so it's the same as
communities.
seasonal.
Yes, yes. It's in relation to the requirements of being a designated seasonal community.
So that's going to merge with the housing and make this one, or is it be an A and or 1 and 1A or something?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna take a look to see what our options are, if we can merge the two together or if they have to be completely separate. So, yeah.
Will you be involving the the Affordable Housing Trust Fund when you do this?
It won't, yeah, it won't be my decision, Garfield. So what my recommendation, or I'll bring it to the board, and then it will have to be discussed on, it'll have to be discussed in public what the options are first, okay?
Will well, I'm not a member, obviously, but we have 6 other members.
Yeah.
Are they gonna hear this firsthand, or they gonna get this information from?
Sure, that definitely, yeah, I can send that to them. If it's going to involve them, if there's an option to merge the two. Or, yeah, I mean, they should have the information. Yeah, yeah.
Question, does this all refers to basically these committees are allocating, funds allocated to the existing affordable housing trust and any monies that would be coming into the seasonal communities housing trust, right? So
Yeah, I don't know the particulars, Phil, on what exactly the parameters for year-round housing trust and if there.
no, I'm
Yeah.
asking that, just in terms of our planning as a select board, where all we're talking about now is sort of the, as I understand it, the decision-making framework for funds that are being allocated to one or two of the housing trusts, right?
Just the makeup of the actual trust. If it's AHT or is it YRHT?
Okay.
So. Yeah, I think then once we figure out if we can combine the two into one, or if we have to have two separate trusts. Then figuring out what the actual charge and the eligibility for decision making and whatnot is in that, based upon the state's requirements.
Okay, so just one last short first question on the nomenclature here. So we're referring to the seasonal communities of housing trust as the year-round housing trust?
Right, so the community, it's a seasonal communities designation and the law is written to encourage year-round housing because of the percentage of seasonal communities, right? It's,
So the second bullet point is written vaguely enough because it was prior to the seasonal community designation being accepted by town
Yeah.
meeting. And the residential tax exemption, we still haven't formally discussed or voted on. Is that still written okay? Because we're still in the infancy of the seasonal community designation.
do you wanna remove workforce housing and just, or combine it within seasonal communities?
No, I think what I'm referring to more, it says including seasonal community designation and residential tax exemption, and how those benefit or impact if chosen to incorporate. I mean, have we done, at least with the seasonal community, have we chosen already?
That was voted at the town meeting, the
Right.
seasonal communities designation. Yeah, so that's been at least supported by the community, then you charge the planning board on excuse me, June 1st to work on zoning reform that's gonna meet the criteria. And the zoning has to be amended in order for our designation to be formally approved by the state.
So we can leave that word in.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. But the residential tax exemptions, that is something that you definitely need to talk about. If that is something that you want to keep within core priority, or if you want to adjust it to a different level. Or remove it. Get my-
Yeah.
Just keep everything, do that.
So the regional, oh, wait, that reference back.
I don't keep everything.
Sorry about that.
So that-
Yeah.
Just keep everything, that this kind of. Do it.
So residential tax exemption,
Right, do we wanna keep that as a core priority? And I guess there's two things here, with only three of us here. Do we wanna make that decision? Doesn't mean we're not gonna do it, but I think it depends. The special town meeting, obviously, had an opinion. I think some of us have an opinion. And leaving it here would indicate that we're continuing to wanna work on it, but without Ben and Eric here, I'm not sure we wanna make that decision within just the three of us. Bill?
I agree with everything you said. I mean, my personal view is that it didn't, the citizen petition did not pass, doesn't warrant us to drop the topic completely, but it might warrant us to drop it below a core priority.
Yeah. I would agree, it's no longer a core priority.
Why is that again? Why?
Well, Couple reasons it failed at the special town meeting, and whether there are. If there are not three select board members who are in favor of the residential tax exemption, keeping it a core priority seems to make no sense. That would be the reason, but again.
Well, I'd like to keep it, maybe not in a, or maybe in a lesser priority, because like, is this something that we'd actually bring up again at another time?
Yeah, yeah.
Then I would definitely like to keep it.
Yeah, well,
relevant. That's
so we can't get a vote right now, is because we would
Okay.
need three votes to do it, and
Okay.
we don't have Eric or Ben here, so we'll continue to move.
Do you wanna, I'm sorry, so you're gonna keep it within the tier one, or?
I don't think we have a choice, because Garfield wants to keep it. Phil and I don't, and you need three votes to move it anyway, so.
You don't want it at all on the list, or do you?
No, I would just move it down.
Yeah, Garfield, are you, I'm
I
sorry,
was already.
You're okay with moving?
Well, I
it down?
am, but I don't, it sounds, since it failed, but it's something we bring up again, I think it's important to.
Yeah, I would be glad to move it down. Lower. I just don't think it's a tier one. Whatever we can, as far as, I would move it to tier three personally, but. Still on the list, but,
Yes, I'll make a motion to move it down from a core priority to a supportive priority, if that's the right lingo.
that is.
No, all right with that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All,
Along with the stage,
but it's staying on there.
relative, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, and that was my discretion.
All in favor?
All right.
Alright,
Okay, unanimous.
thank you. Okay, so now we're going into, are you all done with the aging in place section?
Does everyone agree on what the definition of aging in place is?
cool, what is it? But do we have one? I mean, kind of know it kind of says what it says, but is there an actual definition for that?
It's where people can stay in the community as they evolve in their age,
Right.
right? So we have a community that supports affordable and housing at any stage in the life.
I like to keep it, we have, as I stated before, we have, well, almost 25% of the town is aging.
Well, everybody's aging.
Well, probably 25%.
Right. Yeah, this,
20.9 last I saw,
mhm.
so yeah, I think it's relevant.
It's to me, this,
One of the,
sorry,
no, go ahead.
to me, I mean, there's some things are expressed more as aspirations here as opposed to things that we can actually do as a select board. I mean, zoning for missing middle housing options. Is that solely a planning board activity? Is that something that requires select board involvement?
Select board. It can be select board, it can be planning board. It can be a citizen.
Okay, I would very much support trying to allocate some of our finite resources towards items such as promoting parcels that support housing reinvestment and reuse opportunities. In other words, the general category of promoting private responsible development to create housing. Because so the obvious point is that the amount of money that we have for the town through a CPA and Affordable Housing Trust, you know, is by no means enough to address all of the housing issues. We're definitely dependent on the private markets to create big chunks of housing. And I'd like, you know, we do a lot of things as a town to promote, support those activities. I'd like to see us try to do more. One thing I mentioned in the past is, you know, though, as a town, I thought we did a great job after some rounds about, basically getting our private housing developed at the Wisconsin school. You know, isolating a property, selling that property, highlighting it, highlighting the opportunity and having private money come in with a little bit of help to do that. You know, obviously, it was very unique, but you know, to me, that's something, you know, we really, I'd love us to do, you know, to a greater extent. You know, that's why I'm always, in a roundabout way, that's why I'm always sort of bringing up the Stonegate scenario or situation, in that, you know, it's a terrific piece of real estate that private developers probably would be quite intrigued by if it were to be sort of for sale. They just can't get it to that. To create a lot of housing opportunities, perhaps Fairview would want to be involved. It's right across the street, just again, speculating. So, you know, so I'm just saying, I'm just sort of being aspirational here. There's a general category of doing what we can to help private investment and development in housing in our town in a responsible way. And I'd love to see us try to do more. You know, on the next page, we talk about so housing coordinators, right?
That was in my, my recommendations or
Yes.
my teasers, yeah.
So, you know, that quickly involves hiring someone, and that quickly involves allocating budget money that we may or may not have. But, I'm very supportive of that, in the sense that if it could be someone who could just help us attract private money for housing. So, that's just some ideas that I have when we talk about our housing.
Yeah, I have no problem adding that in there, because there's a finite amount of town land, but there's much more private land that we could help develop.
So so one of do you want to keep it within the strategic priority as a tier 2, or do you want to elevate that one within the zoning missing middle, just that third bullet?
Yeah, I would prefer for it to be a core area, as to me, it's just thinking about this a bit. It is a core area.
They are, you know, they are intermingled in some way, like there's kind of a domino effect that once you do one, it kind of influences or it impacts positively in another, so this would allow for more opportunities in the other ones, like I said. So I can look at ways of incorporating the regional planning, as well as within the housing, a possible housing coordinator through a grant process. And even looking at the potential of CPC funds to assist with funding for a housing coordinator position.
And this also relates to your proposals recently about, you know, trying to improve the permitting process.
Yes.
And that includes regular permits and special permits.
Yeah.
Trying to make that an easier process for private developers to navigate through.
So that's where I think the housing production plan also would assist, going into the second section of my recommendations of looking at a housing production plan, like right now, we don't have actually a plan on how to produce housing. We're just kind of winging it.
I would agree.
And if this is going to be an area of focus that the town has clearly demonstrated a strong support for affordable housing, focusing on it, putting money aside for it through the season, um, through the Airbnbs and all of the short-term rental money going into affordable housing and even ARPA funds that you had. You made decisions of putting that also into affordable housing. So that's, that's why I think it's critical to have a plan in place that we can follow, that everybody is lined up and understands what the community wants, what does it look like, what kind of housing is appropriate for the community and where, so then zoning can, that also helps with the master plan. It complements the master plan effort as well. Because that housing is one area within a master plan, such as also open space and recreation is one element of the master plan. So, yeah, so that's why I put that on the list for consideration of inclusion, is formulate a plan, which then the regional planning committee commission could also assist us with. The BRPC could assist us if we get a grant for that.
Go ahead,
I would love for us to be able to have some document that goes out to the private real estate world to say, these are the opportunities that we think are doable based on current zoning law in our town. And just sort of point them to, this property's there, and you could build this kind of residential property there. And maybe it's private property, but maybe it's for sale, or maybe it's public property and it's for sale. Just to try to be a little more proactive instead of relying on the private real estate world to sort of unpack through our somewhat Byzantine information and figure out what's possible. So that's a big lift, and it's not easy, but I think it's something a lot of other towns do, and I think it would be incredibly helpful.
There's a lot of resources here, and a lot of people that are focused on housing in the region and in the county. Steve, has the town ever done an actual housing summit before with all of the stakeholders? And so like One Berkshire and BRPC and Affordable Housing Trust and the Housing Authority?
The town has not.
Okay, all right. So we can kind of have a bigger dialogue just centrally focused on housing and making sure everybody's kind of aligned with their efforts. That's a typical, like you start with a housing summit.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
Let me just find out.
I would like to think, because I'm on the housing committee and getting a little wondering, we are looking for ways to develop housing. There's ADUs, that's part of our program, and getting housing. We're trying to buy houses. We obviously we've got the Prosperity Way.
Mm.
And the other one by the park, whichever one has the name. And that's what we're looking at. And I said, didn't get any private business, but how are we gonna do that? And I thought that was part of our budget loop, that private places were coming in and they were putting up places that we don't care for.
Mm.
You know, I'll say it, with the same stuff, but people weren't excited about Mahaley Street. Those are houses that aren't gonna be affordable, so I don't know about private citizens unless we're gonna have them, give them some incentive to not to build something that we don't want. Like maybe a tax release or something for a year or something, but and again, I really think because it's kind of like our goal or whatever from the housing trust is to garner housing and procure housing, etc. And this sounds to me, being part of it, hearing this, it sounds like we need to involve, because I think the Nando's got a lot on the ball, and I think Fred as well. I think we would benefit from them, and even maybe the whole rest of our team, if you will, being involved. Because to me, it sounds a little bit like we're stepping on their toes or something.
Yeah, that's certainly not the intent, Garfield.
Right.
You know, that I think the Affordable Housing Trust is a core piece of the solution, but. You know, you have very limited funds relative.
Correct.
Relative to.
Oh, absolutely, but I was saying if we're gonna bring in privates, I think we need to have some way to garner to do what we want. I mean, it's private. That was by right down on Mahaley, and it's not gonna be affordable housing. So I mean, you can bring them in, but they play ball.
Well, I'm also reacting to the fact that we've added these other sort of defined categories of housing. You know, we have, you know, attainable middle income housing, workforce housing, and we're all kind of, there's a lot of definitions. It's a bit hard to keep straight, but there's obviously a spectrum of housing opportunities and a spectrum of incomes of people's ability to pay. So we need them all. That's
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think workforce housing is something we're severely lacking right now. Let me just see, Eileen, did you wanna ask a question or something? We're not necessarily taking comments till citizens speak. I understand.
Oh, wait. I don't mind waiting.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Maybe to try to summarize what I'm trying to say is it's a big topic, big challenge. The way I look at it is that one way of dividing up the strategy is we've got money that the town allocates to the problem through the trust. And that money is spent in a variety of good ways up to the trust. And the other opportunity is through private capital. And that's a critical part of the equation. That's a critical part of housing in the entire country. And we need that. So let's try to figure out a way to, you know, it's not our money, we can't spend it, but let's try to encourage that money to be spent on housing in the town.
Point of order?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Garfield, I think you may be in a position of conflict of interest as a representative of the Affordable Housing.
No, he's not.
He's not?
No.
Just checking.
No.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So I was just trying to, again, summarize and simplify my comment there.
It's a drag, we do need everyone, but I don't want to exclude anyone. Yeah, I agree, but we have to have some way to entice them. Here's some land, but this is what we want, right? So we don't want them to come here. We'd like to get the private bids, but we don't want them to come in and build things that aren't really looking.
Well, we have a planning board, and they're supposed to figure out the rules of the road, that's my understanding, so.
To some effect, yes. As far as the zoning is concerned, but the strategies involved with all of the different stakeholders is a policy decision based for the select board to coordinate. So what I'm hearing though is that there needs to be a stronger emphasis on coordination between the stakeholders and also pulling together some type of assurance, such as a plan, that everybody has a script to work off and understand what is acceptable and where is acceptable in the community, and what would be supported and what wouldn't. For development, is that?
I see it as less coordinating and just more supporting.
In what way?
I think, we have a number of entities, as you said correctly, I agree that are involved in housing in one way or the other. So I wouldn't wanna, you know, the First Regional Planning Commission and my first years, and they're all involved trying to help out and contribute. I don't think we should try to coordinate them as much as try to re-energize them to help us develop, you know, some private housing development or private housing development here in town. I seem trying to coordinate them, it seems like that's very difficult, if not impossible process.
So supporting their needs and then also making sure that you understand what their needs are.
Right,
And encouraging them.
right, yeah.
Is there support from the three of you that I should be at least examining opportunities for a housing production plan effort initiative, and then also the potential of a housing coordinator in some capacity, or there is flexibility within our current structure. For example, with Chris, our town planner, that his job description, Chris and I have talked about this, that there, I have the availability, and he definitely is up for it, is us working on crafting his job description to be aligned with some of the goals here, that then I can have him just predominantly focused on that versus other things that I can shift off of his plate. If, as a town planner, I think there is a lot more creativity with that, and he does have a strength, and he has a lot of experience, 16+ years in Great Barrington with housing. So he is a resource, he is a walking encyclopedia for housing in this community. And all of the connections and all of the understanding of the nuances working it. So, those are things that if you are interested in putting that as a strategy for me to examine, then I can look at if it's in-house or external opportunities to really take charge over the housing initiatives.
Yeah. Well,
When you're speaking maybe having a housing coordinator, you're talking about hiring someone for that position?
It could be, or a vendor, if we get a grant, if there's grant opportunities through mass development, sometimes, through the state, we'll have it, especially now that we are gonna be, a seasonal community designation. There is other types of financial opportunities that we're eligible for, that we can get a vendor that, focuses predominantly on housing coordination. And so it's not just working with developers on 40B projects or other things, and also working and supporting affordable housing trust, but it's also engaging with the developers, working with the permit coordination, all of those elements of kind of being an ambassador for the town on the housing initiatives. So,
My reason in asking is I'd like to think maybe we should find it in-house instead of going out and spending more money that we don't have and had such a tough time with it. I don't want to really shell
yeah.
out any more money we don't have.
Well, yeah, because I agree with Garfield. I would lean towards in-house or a grant opportunity before hiring a new individual. I'd like to keep our employees numbers at the same. So if there's, yeah, but I hear you on that, definitely.
So ambassador is a great idea, and if it's possible internally, just like that, and that would be great.
so let's move on to the next tier.
Are we on homeowner renters retention?
Yeah, that's where I think we are.
Okay. Expand resident access to homeowner and renter retention, and then the second bullet is partner with outside agencies and nonprofits. So again, this is something that really we haven't had a chance to do in the 7-8 months that I've been here so far. But if this is something, I see this as if I'm restructuring an in-house position or getting a grant funded assistance with, that we can look at those those ways to actually expand access.
Are we doing some of this now through the rental assistance program, through the housing, affordable housing trust?
Yeah, but I think if it's on here, then I'm assuming because that has already been going on for a while. I'm assuming that your priority is that you want a more robust attention towards it. Is that correct or?
Well, my personal view is that a lot of this is happening through our affordable housing trust, is my understanding, and through some local nonprofits. And some of that's, and other than, continuing to allocate money through CPA to the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm wondering what else the town actually could do in this particular category. We're doing a lot.
Yeah, the CBD, I never get the acronym right, but yes, we did get the grant for assistance, homeowner assistance of the improvements.
Right.
Which that is through Affordable Housing Trust and Chris.
But if it's on here, just because we're doing something, doesn't mean we should take it off, because that would seem to indicate that we don't wanna do anything that.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Yeah, I actually think all of tier 3 should be tier 2. I mean, because housing is so important, and I think all of these, and it may just be a bit of nomenclature moving it from tier 3 to 2, but I'm not sure there's anything on tier 3 here that I don't see as being something that I would encourage staff to work on as a priority. You know, to say to continue to remain active with Simon's Rock and other available parcels as tier 3. Well, that means, you know, that's only gonna be there so long. So you wanna put in full steam on that. So,
Yeah, no, I agree, it's very important.
yeah, I think all these housing things, and I think they're all intertwined.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's, having tier 1 and 2 is fine, but I think then going to tier 3, you're gonna do them anyways, because the tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 1 all mesh together at some point.
So Steve, clarification, are you looking to advance those up to tier 2? So
Yeah,
you don't have any tier 3?
yeah, I would say that for housing is so important that, and that tier 3s are really stuff, if you're working on them now, they're not tier 3 anyways. Yeah, not to me at least.
Okay.
But Phil, without a vote, we could just take a nod of the heads.
Yep, I'll nod my head.
Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Anything else with housing?
Yeah, it's last point, when I've gone through this, it's sort of yeah, this is a wish list, but a lot of the things we're already doing as a town. Some are not. What we try to make that a little more clear. And it says we're remain active in Simon's Rock, that implies that we're currently active in Simon's.
Yes, Chris and I actually have met with Mass Development or Urban Land Institute program. We haven't though in a couple of months. So we'll have to take a look at that and then yeah.
Yeah, that could be a real boom for us if we could do something with Simon Run. So a lot of land, a lot of dorms and places where people could, we don't house people like we are at, or construction is doing at Thornwood. But to say that we couldn't do that.
Money is the first
Right.
thing that says we can't do it, and second is the amount of money, not only to purchase it, but money to rehabilitate it. So I think our role there is supportive of trying to encourage certain uses of that land or to discourage other uses, and the planning board's done a really good job of that with their overlay district. Sustainability and environment.
This is the fourth area of focus, on your list, and Reed Cleaners property remains as a core priority. That is moving forward, with still the testing to be finalized. I don't know in my brain the actual update on that, but I did sign, for a vendor to, continue with the cleaning
Any with the,
on the assessment work needed.
Yeah, that, we should bring that to the select board maybe in September, an update.
that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's many, things that people are confused about. One is people think we're dragging our feet on Reed's Cleaners and they think it's town money. We're not dragging our feet and it's not town money. We're able to use federal money to move that along.
An update would be great, though, because I think
sure.
some of the prior updates, I think, are no longer, are a little stale.
Sure. Sustainable waste management. Composting pilot program. This, we did not actually continue the composting pilot program this, current fiscal year. Because we do not have the actual, manpower to manage it. So, and this is a Board of Health initiative, so I don't know if that's a core priority,
And I would support moving that from core to support.
or is that even, is it something that, is it an operational?
Yeah, I support moving it off the page completely. I mean, I think if the Board of Health wants to do that, that's terrific, but I'm not sure we have staff. Well, Liz just said we don't, but
I think,
I'll emphasize that we don't have staff to do that, and there's more important things facing the town.
so I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Okay, so one of the areas that I did recognize though, that is not on here, obviously, we have a couple, is the Lake Mansfield water quality is not on here. And then also the implementation, we have to actually change the strategic priority of the open space and recreation plan to now implementation, but what I just recognized also in here for sustainability and environment is wastewater itself. And the infrastructure and assuring that, pump stations and other things are at a appropriate condition for making sure that our environment remains protected.
Yeah, absolutely, I think that should be tier one. The other, and it may be under open space and recreation plan, but is, and ICHIC talked about it, but, bike and walkability, I think is extremely important. And they should be part of our strategic plan.
Is there a specific tier that you were thinking, Steve, for that? For the, let's start with the bike and walkability one.
I'd probably say tier two. Bill, Garfield. Yeah. Open space and recreation probably should move up to tier one,
Yeah, okay,
but
I mean,
not,
practically speaking, on the bike and walkability front, everything we do there is probably gonna be grant funded, has that traditionally been the case?
yeah.
yes.
Right.
Why do we bring stuff to tier one yet? What was your rationale?
Well, we're working on the open space and recreation plan and all part of the master plan too.
It was adopted in June, so the actual open space and recreation plan is finalized now. Now it is time to begin implementation of it. And working on placing that within the capital improvement plan and other strategies.
when you talk about Lake Mansfield water quality.
Yeah.
Um. Maybe just talk a bit about more of what you're thinking of. I'm certainly aware generally, what you're.
Well, over the spring,
Yeah.
in preparation for, usage, the summer swimming usage and stuff, Parks and Rec Commission and, DPW were working on, mitigation for geese, for water quality, issues and beach quality issues there. And then I do know that there was discussions with hydrilla blooms as well, possibly in the lake. Um, so. Yeah, so I feel that it is something that we need to be at least monitoring, and water quality is very important in general, so. Which I can work with the new health agent on, and making sure that those types of testings and things of beach access and recreational access is still maintained.
How often do we check the water? Wow.
I believe it's done once a week, and it's an assistance, yeah, so the testing, that was one of my initial service enhancement proposals, was getting an intern to assist with that. But currently our health agent, and then now, Tri-Town, but what is the Southern Berkshire Health, Collaborative? They assist with that, and the water gets tested in Lee, I believe, once a week. So we have not had any beach closures, but it is something that needs to be, continued.
You may not know this, isn't the lake itself is under the auspices of the Conservation Commission, correct?
Parts of it.
Not the beach, but I thought the lake itself was.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but that's something we need to look into, because I think that would, doesn't matter what our goal is, but who you would work with, it would matter.
Yeah.
In all of these references to the HIC, I mean, they've done a lot of work on that side. We've incorporated it here. How does that feed into what we do as a board, Eric, how we set our goals as a board?
That's up to you, if you feel that it is aligned with something that you have prioritized or would like to
Well,
prioritize.
they're out there. They're basically making some thoughtful suggestions as to capital projects that they're navigating for, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I think us putting bikes and walkability in our plan.
Yeah.
Feeds into us saying, okay, we're not gonna look at every one of your suggestions, because they're pretty in-depth,
Yeah.
but we agree that walkability and bikes are important. And then let the select board and the staff decide which projects can be grant funded and are doable over time. I think if we had left that off completely, it would be harder to accomplish.
okay, well, makes sense.
I'm a good bike, if I may, bike and walkability. I think, I'm all for it, but I think I would like to make sure there's some clear cut plans or something that really stands out with the people on bikes. As a side that we have, and make sure people are aware of the distance you have to have between bikes and your car, and
Mhm.
and sometimes bike people get a little overzealous and they're not really doing what they should on their bike path, so.
Yeah, that doesn't go in the strategic plan, but I think you're right.
I think that would, Garfield, I do believe that actually would be the signage specifically, and how the lanes, and the planning process would go within complete streets, and also within this, so it is part of that initiative, of looking at and ensuring that the 4-foot distance signs and identified bike lanes. Now, as far as operators are concerned, that's something that we can't really manage. Yeah, the Pan Mass Challenge was on the Cape this weekend, and they go past my house, and they were taking up even the oncoming traffic lanes as well. thousands and tens of thousands, if not 100,000 bikers. And it was, they just weren't caring, they were just taking up the road, so I know where you're coming from on that. So, yeah, but I think the Complete Streets is a main component and contributor for the bike and walkability. For those areas.
Anything else in sustainability and environment? Rest of river, tier 3?
Can we talk about the rest of river status monitoring?
I can get an update if you would like, in September for that, along with reed cleaners.
Reed cleaners, yeah, that's really important, because it is dragging, but it's dragging by necessity.
What's the necessity?
We don't want to spend $3 million of town money.
That's in cities. I know, I know.
I knew you'd see my way on that. I pulled 3 out of the hat. It's been over $1 million so far.
So you keep everything, with the exception of open space and rec moving up to tier 1, and then adding in bike and walkability to tier 2. And Lake Mansfield quality in there as well.
Yep.
Okay. That is it. All right, so next is economic development, which is split between a couple pages. I apologize.
That's fine. So Cook's Garage, can we get an update on that also?
On Cook's
Yeah,
Garage, yeah,
because if it's tier 1 highest impact,
yeah.
it would have been. I'd love to see an RFP. It's already been developed and
Yeah,
gone
so
out.
I know Chris was working on one. I don't know what the status is. I believe he was getting very close to it,
Good.
so,
I'm not being critical,
yeah.
it's been on our plate a long time.
Mhm.
And then the next one, the sign bylaw. Either we need to work on that or move it down to tier 2 or 3.
I don't believe that was discussed with the planning board. In any way.
Is it the planning board who does the sign bylaw? I thought when we talked about this, it was the building office, the office of the building.
Oh, was it enforcement?
Well, it was enforcement, it was,
There is one.
how it's written and how if it's enforceable, it was.
Mm,
Because it's not being enforced right now. And I think that was the crux of putting it on here.
yeah, I know that sandwich boards are not actually allowed, and I see them, and feather flags are everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, so. I think we either need to have an enforceable bylaw. Or enforce the bylaw we have. Which it may be good that we're not enforcing it, because it may be too strict. But to just leave it the same way, I think was frustrating to some board members in the past.
Okay. All right, so keep it as a core.
I would.
Okay.
Yes, we need to clarify who is responsible for enforcing currently. That doesn't.
It is the building department that enforces.
Yeah. And if it's not enforceable, we need to fix the bylaw, find out why it's not, and find out. How we fix it so it's enforceable.
I would think it would be one of the easier ones to enforce. They can just start basically picking up signs that don't comply with the law, right?
It takes a lot of effort actually for.
I say that
yeah.
somewhat in jest. But
Yeah.
If it turns out a lot of road signs.
Yeah.
Temporary signs. Are not following the law, is there something that are following our bylaw? Is there something prohibiting the building inspector from just seizing that particular sign and taking it back to the office.
Yeah, so if it is on town property,
Yeah.
then we can actually retrieve it, and hold on to it, but then we are holding it, we have those signs in custody, and, I've seen where they just accumulate time, and you have a pile of lawn signs and A-frame signs and whatnot. Um, so, and it is a very consuming effort, at least for the initiative of implementing it. It requires documentation, it requires, photographs, and then also the letters of, like a cease and desist or a compliance letter, and then if there is citations after multiple offenses and documenting all of that. So there have been towns, because they don't actually have the capacity in their building department to do this type of initiative, that there are towns that have actually hired somebody specifically for signs and zonings for enforcement. So I don't think we're there at that point, but in my estimation is if it's not being enforced, one, they don't have time to look. Or that they're not getting complaints to react to, because they're dealing with other things, so.
Sandwich boards, you're speaking of.
Like
Right,
A-frames,
exactly.
yeah,
Well, are we trying to get rid of them on the towns? I think, well, my personal, Mr. Cynical, I don't think people are gonna be happy about not being able to put their signs outside to advertise what they have.
yeah, so
It's pretty important.
it is, so that's where the balance for economic development comes into play, and assuring that, again, I believe it's written in here is reviewing it with stakeholders, so the businesses need to chime in on what their needs are and limiting the space and making sure that they're not in abundance of taking over the sidewalk and creating hazards for accessibility. So people can get the space can actually get inundated with signage to attract people to go into their business. So is it just menu boards that are for restaurants, or is it for retail that allows for like a sale of 15, 20% off, and those kinds of things? So that's where I think reform comes into play. How far do they need to be placed, or how close to the actual establishment are they allowed to have permission to be on a street where they're not actually facing? I've seen, not here per se, but there have been businesses that will actually be wrapped around a corner, kind of tucked, and so then they'll put their sign on Main Street at the corner to then have an arrow to direct people. And it creates a hazard because it's at a pedestrian crosswalk kind of intersection where people will press the button, and it's prohibiting them from accessing that. So that's where your bylaws come into play, Garfield, is understanding the balance of the public safety as well as trying to balance the economic development components as well as sign pollution.
Maybe I'm going far enough, but I've yet to hear anyone tripping over the A-frame sign or a lunch
Yeah.
board, and the short time I'm in there, they're not way out. Short time I'm in town, I don't remember seeing them be obstructive. Like this far, you're away from your own building.
But if they're not allowed and they're being used now, then all this is saying, let's allow them. But I think,
In my opinion.
yeah, I think that's all we're saying, is that there's not a reason to ignore the bylaw. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So if in fact what we have now is reasonable, what's happening out there is reasonable, let's rewrite the bylaw.
Yeah,
That's
because
all.
if the bylaw is contradicting actually the support of the businesses, which if that's your intention to have it supported in a responsible manner, that maybe there's, sign limitations that it can be a freestanding A-frame sign, or is it a single, like double-sided, and the size of it a 2x3 and all of that kind of stuff, so, and because if it's in the bylaws and if somebody complains, then staff has to react and actually enforce it. So we want to make sure that the staff isn't inundated with complaints because there is a feud going on between one business versus another for their promotions, or anything like that. We want to make sure that there's a fair and equitable support for the businesses on Main Street as well as pedestrian access.
Has there been complaints?
No, but I'm just speaking from experience, so, yeah, there's all sorts of complaints that get filed, and, I haven't received any here, in this community yet, but
Again, I'm sorry, who is supposed to review, what entity is supposed to review the current bylaw?
that's a good question.
I think it's a great idea to review the current bylaw, but the
Mhm.
question is who's doing it?
It's gonna be staff with the help of the building inspector. Again, if we don't have the building office buy in on this.
Yeah.
We're wasting our time.
I agree.
So I think we move it to tier 2 to make it easier, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure there's a problem, but let's look at it. I think the problem is that we're not enforcing a bylaw we have.
Yeah.
So,
We're not.
so
I agree.
so let's move that to tier 2. Because we're not gonna put that as a top priority anyways, even if we leave it at tier 1, because there's more important things going on in town. Do we wanna have staff work on housing or signs?
Can we rewrite it, like you said, or amend it?
Yeah,
rewrite
but
the
I-
bylaw?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite that simple, but yes, I think you can rewrite it. If that's what we need to do, but
Yeah, I mean, I agree, that's a very
I
good.
can't see anyone being happy about it. Being told that you can't put your sign
there's a
up.
lot of people, I don't know recently, aren't happy with the number of signs that are out there now, especially those big banners. People used to complain all the time. Maybe they're used to them now. But
Yeah, look, I agree, there's a lot of signs where there's a lot of lawn signs, a lot of the banner signs, a lot of the, I believe there's a lot of the A-frame signs that are around town. But, yeah, I wouldn't be, so there is sign pollution, but I just wouldn't view that as a core priority.
Yeah. So everyone agreed, move it to tier 2? Now, downtown parking, which is Liz's specialty. I don't think we touch this to let Liz when she has time, which is not right away, but to look at parking downtown. There's enough studies and enough opinions on this. I don't think we need to go a half hour about parking. There either is a problem, and I'll give what I say all the time and get everyone upset. The problem with downtown parking is when there's a lot of open spaces, that means no one's downtown. When all the spaces are full, that's not a problem, but that's just my own opinion. A lot of other people tell us we have a terrible situation downtown. So I would say let Liz look at that in her free time, which hasn't been much since she started and will be a little while, and come back to us.
Can I just throw out my bugaboo with that? And I'll say, I think I've said it before, in the infinite wisdom, whether we take out 8, 10 or more parking spaces with those curb cuts or whatever they are that are bump and take. Personally, I think that it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. We already had parking problems, now you're gonna cut out at least 8 by trying to pretty up the town. And I think they're paying the butt, so my opinion, but that's why I'm a little frustrated about. I don't wanna take up any time on parking either, because it was our own fault, I think we did it to ourselves.
My 2 cents for your future work is that there's a lot of parking that is privately owned.
Yes,
Yes, there is.
And
yes,
you get into a gray underbelly of when you can use it, wink, wink, nod, nod, when you can't. And a lot of people who are familiar with town sort of know the rules of the road there. People who don't know it are the first time visitors, infrequent visitors to town, who wanna come here and park and spend money in our town. And they have a little hard time figuring it all out.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult sort of situation to face. There's multiple parties with all different priorities and economic interests, but that's the way I would sort of frame out the big problem.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a problem to get that collaboration.
Yep.
In an actual written agreement that supports, both the town and public parking and then their businesses as well. Yeah.
And then the last one under economic development is the tier 3 foundational supportive priorities. I think these are, in my estimation, common sense. These are things we should be slowly working on. To
So,
improve a permitting process. Yeah, we know we have a problem and
right, and, a lot of it has to be converted over to electronic. In a more collaborative effort between departments, which right now the current process is just. In isolation, it's a very siloed permit software. The building has it, then health has its own, and they don't talk to each other. So. Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things that'll solve that is money.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so that was something that, yeah, we did attempt to put in, but there are certain elements that we can do for improving permitting processes, which in my cheat sheet thing, for new ideas is actually creating systems for predictable permitting process, so having, and I know that, I believe Chris did this earlier in creating kind of a map for, for what are the steps to get a business up and running. In guiding somebody through the permitting process. But I think that there's potential for automating that a little bit more online or updating it and making sure that it is up to date. And kind of creating it as a brochure for businesses, when even there's an opportunity for working with One Berkshire, basically the chambers on that. Making sure that they have those materials to hand to people that are interested in looking at, and the realtors, and looking at locations and what kind of areas, and what kind of needs and steps they will need to do to open a business, whether it be retail or whatever.
You know, the chamber comes up in just a handful of conversations, one's, I think, more recently in a finance committee conversation. I think I suggested, and maybe I'll suggest it here as well, you know, it would be great for chamber and select board to maybe get an update on what they're focused on and what they're not focused on, just to maybe have a more precise understanding of that, so they can be incorporated in certain planning and maybe not included in other planning. That makes sense?
Does.
Kind of understanding what their objectives are, so then our expectations
Well,
are
it's-
kind of
it's- I would say
realistic.
it's more what they're actively engaged in now,
Mm,
and so that we'll know that and rely on them to do that.
yeah,
And then if they're not doing something that some may think they're doing, then we'll know that too.
Yeah,
yeah,
if they have no interest in doing something and we think it should be done, then that's our responsibility. But if they're working on something, we don't have to put our energy into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just I don't think we know that, maybe as well.
no, and yeah, I personally would appreciate having a better understanding as to what really their energies are being spent on. So again, I can maneuver in the best sense for economic development and for support. One of the areas that thinking about it this weekend even, because I was watching the Pan Mass. Was what about special events and where it actually meets some of these areas of focus and bicycling, you're talking about bike lanes, you're talking about environmental and sustainability and people enjoying outdoor spaces and recreation in our community and supporting economic development where people will actually stay in hotels or Airbnbs to come to races here. This is a prime location and especially in this August, September and October for road races, why, and for bike races, why I should be thinking about reaching out to Pan Mass and other bike long races to actually encourage them to examine Great Barrington as a starting or ending location. We have all of the infrastructure to support either a starting or an ending point. And it can literally go up or down along Berkshire County, and create a huge economic impact that can drive our, meals tax revenue and our hotel motel tax revenue to encourage our receipts, our revenue coming in for that. So,
No, it's a great point. The big driver of a lot of hotel traffic is the bike tours.
right, and just in general, special events, and that's why, I did see it on here, above the special, small business, and it talks about special event permitting process for parking, but in my cheat sheet, I'm just talking about actually the permit process and getting that, where we can be more attractive and special events can actually think about and consider Great Barrington. We have a lot of open space that could be accommodating for any type of special event, and we can do it in collaboration with other stakeholders such as the VFW and other entities within our community. So,
And there's the I Berkshire put together a terrific, or One Berkshire.
yeah, one,
See, I'm not the only one who does that. I think they both have a marketing problem.
Well, they have a terrific like sub website for all the outdoor activities around
Yeah.
the county. I don't know if that gets enough play and we should probably coordinate with them more on that.
yeah, I have been definitely doing a lot more effort of strengthening that relationship with One Berkshire. So I see that as a huge opportunity for us.
I mean, if you look at the Henry Knox event that took place a while ago, it was not all that well advertised, but it was a really good turnout. It was a really great event. And with a little more effort through the towns by having us more involved in it, could have even been better. It was terrific.
Yeah.
The Mahawi was full.
Yeah.
It was a lot of kids. It was a really nice event.
Yeah, it can bring a lot of investors and people that are interested in investors, I mean, not just long-term, but short-term, people that actually are coming just for a weekend. They're investing their time, they're investing their money, they're investing kind of an experience in Great Barrington and eating in our restaurants, and again, just adding more publicity to what makes us a really beautiful community.
I think that Henry Nosting was so well attended, even though not well advertised, was historical event.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not excited about that having the bike races through here. I personally think that should be something that should be run by the town folk. And if we're maybe gonna do it, then maybe we should try a smaller scale before we have something large to see how it works, to see,
Yeah.
but everyone town folk could probably say no.
Well, we're not, I mean, I'm not thinking, Garfield, that the town actually runs these special events, we do.
No, I'm not
Right,
saying.
okay,
I'm saying
good, all
that
right,
it's
yeah.
not running, it's
Yeah.
having.
Yeah.
All this suggestion, all the people coming to
Yeah.
town. I don't know, myself, I don't know, I don't see bike riders or people buying bikes spending a lot of money.
They do actually.
Okay.
They spend, they have, if you even just look at the their equipment that they spend money on. Their bikes in itself are several thousand, if not $10,000 a single bike.
People in
So
town.
if you look at the Josh Billings, the day before, 2 days before, and even sometimes the day after, the town is full. But the bicycle goes through town in a matter of minutes, so the congestion is minimal. But and it's a good time of year, it's right before fall foliage, it's when kids are back to school, so it's a little quieter here, a little bit. And it brings people into town.
Yeah, that's just one example, Garfield, as far as special events. So as you can see, the High C, the Housatonic Improvement Committee is doing a lot more effort of looking at community-based special events and being, making something available to the locals, which then also will attract other, neighboring communities from West Stockbridge or other people that love our community, but want to participate in some type of like the long table event that High C is putting together at the end of this month. And so those are things that I feel is a key contributor to economic development is the special events and making sure that Great Barrington is known for welcoming events of any size. And we can do small scale, but we also have signature events, which the car show is a signature event. And you attract a lot of people for that car show. So, and those are very community-based, very traditional, that means a lot to this community, right?
Everyone likes cars. I'm not sure about everyone likes bicycles.
Well, bicycles, though, I'm not, yeah.
Let's not get into.
You're right, yeah, exactly.
We're not planning, so.
But parades and other things like that, I think are things that I feel if you're comfortable with, at least, making sure that that's highlighted a little in the small business assistance.
So, next one I'm gonna do a little differently, the municipal service delivery. I think, Liz, if you just give a minute or two on each one.
Yep.
Cause I think each one you either started or in some cases more than just started. So I think we're doing really, not that we're not doing well on the others, but I think we've done really well on this one.
So the expanding the professional development, as you can see in my status, I did sign a contract with the Massachusetts Municipal Association and Suffolk University for having a certificate in local government management and leadership program that's going to be starting next fall here. We're going to be the host site. And that includes a discount tuition for up to 3 Great Barrington employees. I have also incorporated into at least the police budget that they have financial support for professional development and for enhanced college degrees. And
CBA,
that is collective bargaining agreements. So that's actually what I was saying is that I use the actual collective bargaining agreements and the personnel policies as tools for developing opportunities to prepare them for elevation. So giving them financial assistance in their collective bargaining agreements. One thing that I didn't actually put in here is that I did create, or we trained the organizational alignment. I did a full town-wide organizational alignment training in June and for everyone for expanding their professional development in that way as well. Yep, okay. Town-wide website. Did you want me to keep going?
Yes, yeah, please.
Town-wide website, the department heads have been, I remind them every month to look at it, as you can tell that I've been also focused on that and leading people to the website for information. We've been posting a lot more, making things available to them, including also my town manager report, all the bridges that are updated on there, the information and the links to also Mass DOT. So we're trying to connect people not just to the town information, but to other avenues that impact, those projects. Um. And we've been, as you can also tell, our number of public notices and media relations, notices that we've been sending out has been significant. I can tell from just our online, my server, how many that were sent in the past versus what we've been sending, and we've far exceeded in this past year of what information that we're sending out to people. So the committee vacancies, I have not focused on that as much as the within a core one, but I know that there are vacancies. So I can advance that on my list. All right, the same thing with communications. We talked about it at our last work session that I'm recommending at least a possible communications plan that we can do internally to make sure that we're aligned and that we have actual strategies for staff to follow as far as communications. We talked about it a little bit this morning at the department head meeting, even with emergency response. And so we're having a heat wave that's coming. We need or even the rain event that happened last week, if the roads were shut down, and we need to make sure that emergency management has a portion in that communications plan. Right now, there isn't kind of assignments of who's assigned to what for what types of communications we're doing. So that communications plan would be something that would outline what those responsibilities and who's assigned to what.
And not to get into it again, but we've had a lot of conversations about the need to sort of increase the number of people who actually get all your blast emails and press releases.
Yeah.
So I think it's critical that we do a better job of that. What do you understand SWOT?
So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, the SWOT analysis. So sorry, I created that acronym. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, so we need to, again, that those weaknesses of or the opportunity of focusing on increasing our numbers of people that are signed up for even just the news email. So when Josh posts, when the town clerk posts things on the website, how many people are actually signed up for that? We can monitor those numbers and set benchmarks.
Great.
Okay. Public safety staffing plan, explore retention opportunities. Is that? Sorry, is that for police, fire, or all of the above?
My suspicion is when that was written, it was for police. And now it's probably more appropriate for fire. Because there was a time when we were paying a lot of overtime and had a lot of openings on the police. I don't think we have that as much anymore. So,
Is that something that you want to amend?
I would like to just change it. Well, I could say public safety's staffing plan and say explore on an ongoing basis, recruitment and retention of fire department.
Or is it just a staffing plan?
That'd be fine.
Just-
As a practical matter, isn't this is the town manager's responsibility?
Yes.
So when do you need to come to the select board to make a significant change? Of
Right.
course,
Yeah,
haven't we delegated this responsibility to you?
yes,
Most of our goals are delegated to staff. We don't go out there and
Okay,
physically do these.
right,
Yeah.
right, so we're just saying.
We're saying that as a
Support,
this is right, exactly. As a priority, we see down the road a problem with public safety staffing and we want you to be aware of it and work on it.
but isn't all staffing, you know?
Yeah, that's,
that's,
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I mean is that, a staffing plan talks about and exploring retention options, I think is important. And it works in tandem with professional development that we're not retaining people just for the sake of retaining people. We're retaining the people that add significant value and are invested in the actual organization for the right reasons is important. That as a plan is not, the benchmark is not hiring somebody and keeping them for 40 years if they don't actually contribute and are almost, you know, they're not adding anything. That is not a plan. That is a plan is supporting people and allowing them to grow and, you know, and that's a plan. And it's, I think having it just generic where it's a staffing plan versus one type of service versus prioritized over all the others, I think is not a good message also for town staff.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. And you're okay with keeping it as number 2?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Okay. The next one, update select board policies. We're working on that right now. The policy subcommittee actually met this afternoon. And we have a list that we're working on currently. Right now, just the policies and procedures, but there are other items that we had identified at our first meeting a couple weeks ago that we'll be working on as well.
So we have the finance committee recommendation here about the regional school district assessment. It's certainly an important topic. How does that feed into what we're doing here?
I think it would, I see it as a separate goal or strategy. Because it would be within finance. So I had mentioned it last time that all of these incorporate finance in some way, but the actual budget development is not identified in here, and I don't know if that is actually a municipal service that you would incorporate that into as an objective, a strategy.
Or
Yeah, of the budget. So I know we have a financial policy that you set, but and that gives me kind of a better, we're gonna work on that with the finance committee on giving me clearer instructions as to what the expectations are, but the school assessment is a much more long-term strategy, which I had discussed in the financial strategies on my February 13th portion of the budget.
well, it's really the case that stating the obvious, you know, education is probably our largest municipal service by far,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So the point of adding that here was that it wasn't included elsewhere, then I would certainly agree with that. Um, I certainly agree it should be in there somewhere.
Make a motion if you wish. There's no, I'm gonna vote no on it because it doesn't belong here, but at least for the record, you'll have it down there.
So it's a, we need another category, Whopper issues, how about that?
Or do
Yeah.
you want an area of focus that's specifically on
Well, this gets into, I mean, the school district budget is a huge issue. Captain Obvious here, and it relates to, um, the tricky topic that it's the largest part of our budget, but it's not formally part of our budget process. It's the budget, there's a separate budgetary process by a separate entity.
Right.
So, and usually when we get to the budget process, there's a sense in sort of, our budget process is too late to talk about the school district budget.
Yep.
So what to me would make sense is to have some type of conversation. In the, I'll call it the early fall, about our approach to our discussions with the school district about the budgetary process, as opposed to waiting for the assessment to arrive and the budgetary process and everybody being unhappy about it, or challenged by it. So I'm advocating some type of more formal conversation on the school budget in the early fall, which to me is sort of, I'll call it September.
So are you asking to put it in here? Because if you're not, that's not what this meeting's about.
Okay, well then I am. So I'm saying, let's have, under, the category of municipal services. All right?
Yeah.
Let's have a full discussion about school budget. And I guess that would be a strategic priority.
And invite the school, or what kind of discussion
Yeah.
are you thinking, Phil?
I don't think they, if we invited them, and I wouldn't suggest that. I would say, perhaps a joint finance committee, select board session in September to talk about school budget.
You do realize school's a separate municipal entity, and us talking about it in a session means absolutely nothing. You might as well actually include, talk about the weather and talking about how much snow we're gonna have in the winter time.
We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, because you need to talk, need to sit in the same room if you're gonna do that. And realize that the perception is the budget went up every year, it goes up a lot, which it does. But it went up the same as insurance last year, and with over 200 employees. Not sure that, I don't see anything in here talking about Berkshire Health Group. Which causes a problem for us, and it causes a problem for the school district and the other two towns.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and last year we didn't have in here the ambulance squad, which Liz probably spent more time on than she spent on 50% of these. You know, it's.
Well, the ambulance is a good reference point, because that was it's a very different circumstance. But that was way where we went from having a very different view of the world, to having a more aligned view of the world.
I just don't think it belongs in here. I think it's a different topic. I agree there should be discussions.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm just saying it's hard,
Would the goal then,
it's
Phil,
hard to not have it. I'm saying as a conversational matter.
But I'm serious,
Hard not have it.
why isn't Berkshire Health Group in here?
I agree.
It could go up 15% this year, and we're gonna vote for it, but we don't know we're voting for it.
I completely agree. So it's part, I've been accused of focusing too much on budgetary issues, okay? So I'm trying
Is
not,
that a bad thing?
so I'm trying not to do that. But at the same time, you know, to have this discussion about strategic priorities for the town, and to not talk about health insurance costs, and to not talk about the school budget seems a bit odd. So
so,
I'm struggling to figure out how to connect the two.
sure, I think, Phil, one of the starting points that I heard through the budget process was, for our FY 27 development, was a disconnect, a relationship disconnect between the school and the town being in isolation, working and not talking to each other. And as you said, not having conversations prior to getting handed a budget and saying, this is what you're gonna pay for, and then having, uh, Peter Dillon come and give a presentation about the numbers and stuff when it was kind of too late. So is that then a possible strategy of working towards strengthening that relationship and conversations of understanding what the school committee's objectives are for building the budget in advance and understanding and having that more open communication?
I think that would be great.
That would be a strategy, I think, of,
That's a great way to lay it out. You articulated it much better than I did. You know, well, I guess another more crude way of saying what I'm saying is, you know, let's start the school conversation earlier than Peter, addressing the select board and finance committee about the end product of the school budget process.
so is that a municipal service? Or is that, as I mentioned, kind of more of like a halo around the areas of focus that impact kind
So
of
so
all?
I like what was said, except I don't see the budget in here at all. So now I've got the Berkshire Health Group, I got the Berkshire Hills Regional School District, but what about our budget process?
Again, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You know, um. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And
And so my question is, does that, and I like what Liz said, does that belong in here? Or our other policy or budget policy?
or is it referenced here and then it's elaborated in the actual policy itself? I mean, another component of finance that impacts a lot of all of what we've talked about for the last two meetings is actual goals and objectives on procurement. And that is within the finance realm and long-term strategies. So that is definitely missing.
So I agree with you on Berkshire Health. I think we've discussed this in the past.
Yeah,
And
we'll do the thing,
It's sort of a number that sort of comes in out of the sky and pops in on.
and we have one vote, but unless we ask, we don't even know what that one vote is.
And again, I'm being very clear, and I'll take a stab at speaking for Steve, which is never appropriate, but we both fully respect the importance of health benefits to the town staff and to the staff of the school district. At the same time, it just aggregates to a very large budgetary item for the town, and I think it merits a little more interactive conversations with Berkshire Health than maybe we've had in the past.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's anything that can be done, and I wasn't here when Berkshire Health Group was formed, but it's their whole goal, which I understand it to be, or their main goal was to try to maintain relatively low increases in health insurance premiums. They've failed miserably. Now, maybe there's no other way to do it. Maybe they've done as good a job as can be done, but I feel like we're on the outside looking in, even though we have a seat at the table.
And we don't want to pick on them. This is not like a unique issue to Great Barrington.
Oh, it's not a unique issue to the country, but
So we're kind of Captain Obvious a bit on this, but I think it just merit more conversation a little earlier on this topic, and you know, some brainstorming about ways to decrease the rate of increase on this cost.
Mhm.
So again, would those two topics belong in here or our budget policy and procedures? Because the school district, you're absolutely right, is the major driver of increases for us, one of the major drivers. There's others, it's not the only one. So,
It's August, the budget process always sort of gets here faster than we realize. And the school budget process is very complex and very long. I would not want to I would personally not advocate getting too involved in a reassessment of this process or the budget policy document. I would rather say, hey, let's talk about schools and Berkshire Health Group.
I'm fine with that.
That would be my maybe simplistic and pragmatic request.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Phil.
I would love us to just agree that we're going to reach out to the school district, reach out to Berkshire Health Group and encourage budgetary conversations to begin in some way in September.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
And to do that as an action of this body, as opposed to undertaking a review of the budget policy document and any more elaborate changes to this document, which is going to take time and may end up missing this particular budget cycle. I don't want to miss this.
I think it's reasonable. And to quote you, to state the obvious, the whole budget process is broken. Because first of all, we don't know the increase in insurance till we're almost done with the process. And the school district may be saying 10%, and we may be saying, oh, we think it may be 16, and it could come in at 12. We don't know. Second of all, revenue throughout the state. By the time we're all done, by the time we actually find out actual revenue numbers, so the whole process is broken. And it's not just for us, it's broken throughout the state. If we knew the revenue numbers before we were done with our budget, it would make a lot more sense. But I do agree with you. Let's put as a agenda item. It doesn't even have to be an agenda item. Let's just start the discussion with both Berkshire Health Group, which we have a seat at the table, we have a representative, and with the school district. Obviously, we're gonna start our discussions. The school district will start meeting in early November, publicly. So let's, have Liz contact everyone and see where we can go on this.
There's something that we think we need the other two select board members to decide. I don't know if I want to decide it tonight.
Well, we're not really deciding anything. We just decide a whole strategic plan without them. So I think in
I'm
Phil's,
saying that's not right, I'm just saying.
Yeah. but in Phil's defense, and he doesn't need to say that, he's right about the school district. We may not agree on the end product, but we're right. We have to understand what the school district's budget looks like so we can craft our own budget.
Another goal or objective with the strategy is actually amending the financial policy. And having something ready for me, by end of November, early December. Would be a goal or objective to have. Working with the finance committee on that, so we're not waiting till December 16th to.
I think there's a further problem there, which we need to figure out is how we're doing that.
Right,
Because previously the finance committee would make recommendations and then we would say, oh, we didn't like that one, we like that one. And so then it would go back to them and then it was summertime and
Yeah.
the budget was over with.
there's no formal
good.
process.
Yeah.
There's no formal process, or at least, is it documented anywhere as far as the steps involved with?
On that one, it's really not documented, and in my prior time on the finance committee, I think I was always surprised to see that our budget policy document is very unique to Great Barrington. It's not really a thing
Right,
statewide. It's just a thing that very constructive document that this town has put together. So, we continue to revise it. I would propose, and should be. This is up to the
Donna's
plan
here.
committee, but,
Yeah.
I would, I think what I would want to avoid is sort of the 10-person drafting session. I would propose that the finance committee, if they if they wanted to put together a revised draft, maybe marked up with changes. And that, we could, that might make it a less cumbersome process.
Well, that's what's made it cumbersome. I'm not blaming the finance committee, is it keeps
Now, let's
going.
blame the fans.
Yeah, but the other problem, I think for a couple of years, we've both looked at it and said, yeah, we don't have time to do this, let's just keep it the same way. When there were obviously faults in it, that, or changes just over
I
time.
mean, I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, I took a stab at a pretty major review, working closely with Ann and Dwyer on that, and I think. So some of those changes were accepted and many of them were not. We should make changes.
Yes,
We should go through the process, but I guess what I'm really saying, having been through it a bit, I don't want it to hold up what we need to do for this budget year, yeah.
if the finance committee is gonna suggest a major overhaul, we probably don't have time. We're already into August and it's gonna, and we could meet together, but I agree with you. 10-member committee, working on it, will probably go into, FY 28 or 29 budget.
I'm gonna speculate, they don't wanna do that ever, so
Yeah.
so.
I agree, let's ask the finance committee, I'm acting like we're not on stuff here, but listen, but there's Jeffrey's on the line, Michelle's on the line. Let's ask them to make modifications for the first year. And maybe make this a 2 or 3 year revision process instead of trying to do it all at once and then failing miserably.
Yeah, and I'm also saying, I'd rather us, our time is finite, so let's. Rather than investing a huge amount of time in the policy documents, I'd rather use that to try to make some tweaks to the process for this budgetary cycle coming up, which is coming up faster than we all.
Well,
expect.
yeah, and let me add that I asked the finance committee and then the select board to work with Ally and Liz. Because the changes should be impactful and they know our needs. So, if we're gonna change things that they don't agree that need changing, we're spinning our wheels.
Agreed.
You move on.
What's that?
I'm asking, can we move on?
We're done.
So, well, actually, yes, we're done, but not really. So I can incorporate these changes from the last two meetings and bring that forward probably this first week, the first meeting in September.
That's fine.
If that works for the actual, not a work session, but a first actual real board meeting, regular meeting, excuse me, that then you can adopt the revised strategic priorities.
Yeah, I think there's two things could happen. We adopt it, which I think should happen because we've all had a hand in it. Or if there are two people missing as tonight, if they have substantial problems, we go back to another workshop.
Yeah, so I can incorporate all the changes and then put it on for the regular meeting
that's
for
fine.
their review.
Yeah.
And incorporate also a possible, like I said, a kind of a barrier around all of the areas of focus of the finance component of it with the financial policy, the strengthening the relationships and the communication between the regional health and the school, and then also, are you comfortable with the procurement element?
I think those are three big items,
Okay,
at least two of which we have little control over, so we need to get a better understanding of it.
I agree.
great, thank you.
Okay.
Where do
I don't cancel meeting if people are gonna be missing and we don't know about it ahead of time.
right, but Nancy, that thing about that.
Yeah, well, but if you're not gonna talk about something and then do it again when they're here, so you either cancel the meeting or you you work ahead, you move ahead. I mean,
And I don't think we made
I
any.
don't know if I understand what you meant by that. What do you mean, council?
well, if we're gonna have to discuss this a second time, then we've wasted a couple hours of our time. I don't think they would expect that. So,
Who's that, you talking about Ben?
Ben, yeah,
I don't know, I think those guys would have some input, so,
I didn't say they wouldn't have input, but
oh, you didn't say that. Word, their input, that's what I'm saying.
okay, select board time, Phil. Garfield,
Nothing.
and I have nothing. Citizen speak in media, yes, Madonna, go right ahead.
Look, notice my hand went.
I saw that.
Right up.
You could have strained your shoulder with that.
Well, I don't want to strain my shoulder. I'm Madonna Marr, 3 Alford Road, Great Barrington. I also wear a hat at the Finance Committee, and I wear a hat as an elected CBA person member as well. I will say, we've all been to, you of course have been to hundreds of meetings. I mean, we've spent hundreds and maybe thousands of hours talking. Steve, I'll say that for you because you've been on these for a long, long time. It always comes down to the strategic priorities as I see them. You got the school budget. Number one, well, we don't have to rank it, but school budget, Housatonic Waterworks, the bridges, and the rest of river, which I think is a terrible name. And I think it should be called what it is, dumping the GE toxins into the Housatonic. Is that good for economic development? I don't think so. I don't know why that's not on, or it was on here, and I didn't really hear much about that. Right, so I mean, what are we missing here? If we're gonna try to have a livable community. And we're just, oh, well, you know, I mean, the bridges are a real issue, we know it, and we know how expensive it is. But residents, we hear it every week, you hear it more than many, many times. You know, with phone calls and whatever, the residents want action, they want less talk. They want action. And I can't believe it, if you're questioning, well, what's aging in place? Aging in place is all of us. It's all of us. It's keeping us here and housed. And you know, I just think we need more action. And I know the Finance Committee we've been meeting a lot, got a good group, we're meeting a lot. Even to the consternation of some people. And we're trying, but I think the citizens of this town think that we have, I don't know, some power. I mean, during budget season, we can, you know, we certainly take action. But we're an advisory group. And I know my committee spent hours at the fire station drafting recommendations, you know, for your strategic planning. And I just feel some of it just was lip service. Thank you.
Okay, next online, we'll go back and forth. Jim Garzone,
James Garzone, 84 North Lane Road. Just thanks for meeting tonight for the strategic planning. A couple of things. One, I think having a bike or some type of activity would be fantastic. I mean, we know Josh Billing does well. I can tell you from being an avid biker myself, I've done Ironmans. You know, Ironman goes to towns and it takes it over for a few days, and there's thousands of people that come. It fills up the restaurants, the hotels, and it's a very affluent community. The bikers and the Ironmans, like Liz said, these bikes cost way too much money. So that would be a great aspect for the town. But that being said, I want to talk about the RTE that the town had voted against. I know we moved it down to priority 3. I still feel it shouldn't be a priority since the town voted against it, but it seems like it's going to continue to come up year after year, and the misinformation is just shakes my head. But as Madonna said, I'm going to pivot again. It's just we need action. I'm going to go to the South County Connector. We have issues with that. Our poor seniors and transit challenged people are not having the ability to get around town, to get to their doctors or even get to their jobs. So I would hope that would get some traction. And like, I'll keep on saying what Madonna just said, we just need action. People are just stressed and tired. We know the tax bills are going to keep on increasing with the school, with Housatonic Waterworks, with the PCBs that Madonna correctly said has kind of been pushed to the side until they start dredging and we get more of the PCBs. And like Madonna said, whoever thought this was a great idea, putting the PCBs up the river from us, that's a catastrophe waiting to happen in the future, which our poor kids or whoever citizen is going to be around by then is going to be impacted. So a lot of things. So thank you.
Thank you. Donna,
Donna Jacobs, 260 Park Street, and I'd just like to address some of the discussion of housing. And I have a particular interest because I live actually in an historic corridor, which is at 260 Park Street. The home next to me, it was built in 1771. It's in the historic district. The home across the street from me was built for the CEO of the Risingdale Mill. The one next to them was the president. And most of our homes were built in the early 1900s. Mine was built in the early 1900s. And we're about to invite the construction of affordable housing on a ball field that is diagonally across the street from my house. So we are all concerned citizens, and I was heartened by something you said, Liz, about we don't have a plan to produce housing, which is a kind of a way of saying, well, gee, we really do need a plan to produce housing, and I don't really know what the trust's policies are. And I attend the meetings and I still can't get a handle on what are the Affordable Housing Trust's policies that would and what are the analytics that drive the policies? Does the board simply say, gee, Habitat for Humanity has a great project on State Street, let's give them $230,000 and support the project for deeply affordable housing? 30% of their area median income is what's required to rent a unit for $500 to $600 a month. And everybody, of course, in Massachusetts is welcome to apply to this deeply affordable housing. Are we in Great Barrington, do we have a poverty challenge? Or do we have a workforce challenge? And I think if we had more of an understanding of what the needs are, that's the analytics, and then we could drive some policies, and then we could make some decisions. So the cluster housing that is being thought about going across the street from my house, it's 3 acres. Do we have 12 units? Do we have 20 units? Does each unit have parking for 2 cars? What is that going to do to our area? It's going to be pretty congested. It's going to be a parking lot. And it's an open space, and we do have concerns with open space. So I just wanted you all to be apprised that this is a historic corridor. And Affordable Housing Trust is in the planning stages for it. I'm attending the meetings, and I just really would like to see some careful planning and some real analytics. Prosperity Way has been kind of a bust so far. People have not been eligible for it, even though they're locals and they work in the area, but they've been because of the median income restrictions. So that's all I have to say tonight.
thank you. Eileen,
Hi. Way back, almost 2 hours ago. Let's see, I think Liz said that perhaps the short-term housing funds could be put into a housing account. And I wondered where they're going now. I thought they just went into,
they're going to their Affordable Housing Trust.
they are,
They're already going there. So
okay, so
I think they are going there.
thanks.
You're welcome. Michelle Lubert.
Hi, everyone. Michelle LeBear, 70 Division Street. First off, I just want to, as a finance committee member, thank our chair, Madonna, for her comments. And can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. There was a little blip on my side. What the Rest of River came up at our last finance committee meeting, But as a citizen, and I live in Housatonic, I sit in meeting after meeting, and like open space and recreation is discussed. Old maids is discussed. We have party in the park and everything. But in the meantime, there's this huge dark cloud that's going to move into Housatonic, and it's called the Rest of River Cleanup. It is going to have a huge economic impact, not only on Housatonic, because it always flows downstream, so it's going to hit Great Barrington too. Frankly, I'm a little surprised. It doesn't seem to me that the Housatonic Improvement Committee even wants to broach it. I brought it up once at a meeting a long time ago, and it was brushed aside. So I think we have to acknowledge that yes, we have financial challenges, but we have other challenges coming down the road. And we can dress things up as much as we want, but when the trucks start rolling up in Housatonic, it's going to obliterate a lot of people. And that brings me to aging in place. I was a little taken aback by comments on that. I just hear from a lot of people in my age group and older, they don't know if they're going to be able to afford to keep their homes. We're so concerned about building new housing for sometimes for people who are just moving into the area, but the people who have lived here for decades, even immigrated into the area decades ago, we don't seem to care whether they'll be able to afford to stay in their homes. So that is something I wouldn't mind spearheading, is that initiative. But we do have to have a conversation regarding how our town finance committee interacts with the school finance committee. And we'll be addressing that more at our next finance committee meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay. By unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.